Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the coolest parts of Verse Peace. Yep, we're talking about specs, also known as combats. Alongside fruits and swords, these are one of the three main movesets you'll be using in the game. And trust me, picking the right spec can totally change the way you play. Whether you're a close-range brawler or someone who likes to keep it stylish and flashy, there's a spec out there that fits your vibe. Now, let's be honest, not all specs are created equal. Some hit hard, some look cool but don't quite deliver, and a few are just straight up broken in the best way possible. So in this video, we've put together the ultimate Verse Peace spec tier list to help you figure out which ones are worth grinding for and which ones you might want to skip. Stick around because we're breaking down what makes each spec special, how they work in actual combat, and why some of them dominate the battlefield. I'm quickly moving on to the video and I'm ranking specs in Verse Peace. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching! The specs in this tier are in order from top left to bottom right: Gon, Yuji, Hikari, Gojo, and Sukuna. Oh man, if you've ever wondered what it's like to swing a noodle at your enemies while they blast you into another server, welcome to the world of C-tier specs in Verse Peace. Let's talk about the poor souls stuck in the land of mediocrity. Let's kick it off with Gon. Now, Gon is like that one friend who shows up to every fight early, tries really hard, but just doesn't quite keep up. His Z move slaps with 10,060 damage, which sounds good, until you realize that's basically his peak. Fireball on X is decent, and his diagonal slash on C, yeah, that one's more of a tickle. The real upside? He's super easy to get and absolutely perfect for new players. But once you get the hang of the game, Gon's damage just doesn't keep up. Outscaled faster than you can say RIP starter spec. Next, we've got Yuji. Now Yuji's kind of a mixed bag. His C move, Black Flash, hits for over 13k, solid, right? And his explosive punch on X packs a good punch too. But the Z move is kind of whatever. The real problem? He's not easy to get, and there's nothing else to him. No mobility, no defense, no extra spice, just raw punches. If you're looking to roleplay a boxer, Yuji's your guy. But in terms of actual spec strength, meh. Then we've got Hikari, the spec equivalent of flipping a coin and hoping for the best. Damage-wise, he's slightly better than Gojo V1, which is a low bar, let's be honest. His Z and X moves both do the same damage and aren't very exciting. His C is a shockwave, that's alright, but the real draw is his F move, invulnerability for 5 seconds. Sounds amazing, but it's actually short enough to leave you hanging if your timing's off. Still, for PvP dodging or trolling, Hikari has his niche. Speaking of Gojo, remember when he used to be the cool kid on the block? Yeah, that was Gojo V1. Now he's mostly just standing around casting weak explosions. His invulnerability lasts 10 seconds, which should be awesome, but the rest of his kit is so underwhelming it barely matters. Great for dodging, not so great for doing literally anything else. You pick Gojo when you want to survive, not thrive. Now here comes Sukuna, and I'll be honest, I kind of feel bad for the guy. On paper, a cursed king should be terrifying, right? In practice, his damage is the lowest out of all the early game specs. His Z and X are laughably weak, and while the C move gives a cool slash barrage, it still doesn't save him. No utility, no edge, just vibes. If you pick Sukuna, you're doing it for the aesthetics, because it sure isn't for the DPS. So here's the thing with C-tier specs, they're like the warm-up act before the real show. They teach you the game, help you get a feel for combat, and then gently push you to move on. And that's not a bad thing. Everyone starts somewhere. Just maybe don't get too attached. If you're a new player, Gon is honestly your best bet. He's reliable, simple, and gets the job done early on. But if you're looking to hold your own in mid or late game, these specs aren't gonna cut it. It's like bringing a spoon to a sword fight. Anyway, that wraps up the sad but necessary tale of the C-tier gang. Stick around because up next, we're diving into the B tier, where things actually start to get spicy. The specs in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Killua, Goku, and Madara. Imagine getting struck by lightning, punched across the map, and crushed by a meteor, all in the span of 10 seconds. That's what the B tier in Verse Peace feels like. These specs aren't top tier gods, but they're definitely not pushovers either. Let's break down Killua, Goku, and Madara, 3 specs that might just be your stepping stone to greatness, or frustration, depending on your luck. Let's start with Killua. This dude brings the electricity, literally. All 4 of his moves deal solid damage, and the AoE coverage is actually pretty impressive, especially for early to mid-game. His V move hits like a truck, dishing out over 18k damage in a huge area. The only catch? Getting Killua is like trying to win the lottery while getting struck by lightning. Twice. RNG is not your friend here, and while his damage is decent, he eventually gets outscaled by more powerful specs down the line. Now, if you're looking for a spec that won't make you pull your hair out trying to unlock it, Goku is your guy. He's simple, effective, and his teleport-heavy kit makes him super fun to play. Each move has a nice, in-your-face style that feels satisfying, especially early game. But here's the thing, his damage just doesn't keep up later on. And without any utility or crowd control, you're left teleporting your way into some very questionable fights. Then there's Madara, the classic looks cooler than he performs spec. His moveset is flashy. Wind gusts, flame breath, meteors, big explosions. Sounds epic, right? And to be fair, the AoE potential is solid. But damage-wise, he doesn't hit quite as hard as you'd want, especially compared to other specs you'll run into. Plus, just like Killua, unlocking him is a grind. No utility, no survivability, just raw power that doesn't quite deliver at higher levels. If you're wondering which one to go for, it really depends on where you are in the game. Early to mid-game, Goku's ease of access and well-rounded kit make him a great pick-up-and-play option. Need something a bit flashier and don't mind the RNG pain? Killua might be your guy. Want to roleplay as an anime god while slowly realizing your damage isn't keeping up? Hello, Madara. So yeah, B tier isn't bad, it's just transitional. These specs are like the teenage years of verse piece, full of potential, a bit awkward, and probably not your endgame. But with the right playstyle and timing, any of these can carry you further than you'd expect. Just don't get too comfortable. The specs in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Aizen, Sukuna V2, Higuruma, and Hidan. You know that feeling when you think your spec is fire? Until you run into someone who erases half your HP in one move? Yeah, let's talk about A tier specs in verse piece, the ones that almost make you feel like a god, but not quite. Let's kick things off with Aizen. Now, this guy looks cool, moves cool, and his V move, the Black Coffin, feels like something out of a villain's ultimate scene. It deals a juicy 20,958 damage, which is nothing to laugh at. The AoE on his Z, X, and C moves makes him great for clearing mobs or locking down a team. But here's the catch. Once you hit mid to end game, other specs kind of leave him in the dust. It's like driving a really nice car from 2015 and 2025. It still runs, but, you know? Now Sukuna V2, oh boy, this one feels powerful. His V move, Malevolent Shrine, not only has one of the coolest names in the game, it also hits for a whopping 22,635 damage across a huge area. Z and C are solid too. The only issue? It's not super beginner friendly. Some skills need solid aim. And again, in the current meta, he just doesn't hit as hard as top tier specs. He's like the boss that used to be hard, but now you beat in your sleep. Higuruma is interesting because he looks underwhelming, until his passive kicks in. M1ing enemies has a chance to activate the Judge, and if that hits, your next V move can deal 30% of the enemy's HP as true damage. Against bosses, that's actually insane. But, and it's a big but, his normal move damage is really low. And unless you're sword spamming, that passive doesn't show up often. In PvP, it's basically non-existent. So he's a niche pick, like that one weird friend who only shows up for boss raids. Then there's Hidan. I'm not gonna lie, he's kinda slept on. His moves have underwhelming damage compared to others. His Z move deals just 8,383 damage. Ouch. But he has a secret weapon, invulnerability. His F move gives you 10 seconds of iframes and reflects any damage you take. In PvP, that can completely turn the tide. PvE though? Meh. Not the best for grinding or bosses. So yeah, A tier specs in verse piece aren't necessarily bad. They're just not the best. They've all got a little flair, some good animations, and a move or two that'll make you feel powerful. But when push comes to shove, you'll find yourself wishing for a bit more boom. Still, I won't lie. If you're playing for fun, Or you love the character from the anime? These specs slap. There's nothing like pulling off Aizen's coffin move while shouting Hado 90 for dramatic effect, even if it doesn't top the DPS charts. And hey, experimenting is half the fun. Who knows? Maybe one of these A-tier specs fits your playstyle perfectly. At the end of the day, Verse Peace is about having a blast while leveling up and flexing on your friends. Just maybe keep a meta spec in your back pocket for boss raids, alright? Let me know in the comments which one of these you think is underrated, or if there's an A-tier spec you think deserves an S-tier promotion. I'm ready to argue. The specs in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Hikari V2, Gojo V2, and Padoru. Imagine having 40 seconds of invincibility and still being considered worse than something else. Yeah, welcome to the world of Hikari V2, where you're basically untouchable but somehow not top dog. Let's break this down. His Z move throws a wild flurry of punches, like anime-style fury, that deals a solid 18,800 damage. Then there's the X move, where you kick a literal cargo container like you're in an action movie. Fun? Absolutely. Practical? Meh. But here's the real deal. The F ability gives you 40 whole seconds of iframes. That's almost disrespectful. Yet, people still call it a worse D4C. Tough crowd. Now let's talk Gojo V2, the king of utility and crowd control. He's not here to flex raw numbers, he's here to play smart. The red and blue combo, Z and X, is clean. One does damage, the other pulls enemies. It's like you're sculpting the battlefield the way you want it. Hollow purple C hits in a straight line, and it's the hardest hitter in his kit at 2,958 damage. Not too shabby, but the real kicker? A 10-second AoE stun on the V move. That's massive. And let's not forget his 20-second invuln with the F key, perfect for clutch moments. He's not flashy with numbers, but he controls fights like a puppeteer. Then there's Padoru, the unexpected banger of the bunch. Don't let the festive name fool you. This spec packs serious heat. Her Z move detonates a gift in front of you. Very wholesome, until it explodes for 21k damage. The X creates a snow zone that shreds anything too close, and the C is just a classic boom boom moment with 29,200 damage. But the real star? That V move. You channel and boom, 34,800 damage to everyone around you. She's got damage, she's got AoE, and hey, she's not that hard to get either. But let's be real, in the land of Verse Peace PvP, damage alone doesn't guarantee greatness. That's why Hikari and Gojo sit at the top despite Padoru's flashy numbers. PvP in this game is all about tempo, pressure, and survivability. Hikari's 40 seconds of safety lets him bide his time and punish mistakes. Gojo, meanwhile, is that guy who disables everyone for 10 seconds while he just walks away casually. Now, I'm not saying Padoru is bad. Far from it. In fact, for mid to end game players, she's a fantastic pick. The damage is there, the AoE is wide, and the cooldowns feel fair. But once you go up against the likes of Gojo or Hikari, that lack of utility starts to show. It's like bringing fireworks to a laser tag battle. You'll still light up the place, but the other guy's playing 4D chess. At the end of the day, all three of these specs have their moment to shine. Hikari V2 is the invincibility tank, Gojo V2 is the battlefield manipulator, and Padoru is the cheerful demolition expert. It really comes down to your playstyle. Want to outlast and counter? Go Hikari. Prefer to control the pace and mess with people's positioning? Gojo's your man. Just want to blow everything up with holiday spirit? Padoru's got you covered. The specs in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, D4C, Roland, Okarun, Aizen TY, BW, Uraume, and Rimuru. Alright, let's dive straight into some of the most powerful specs in Verse Peace right now. You know, the ones that make your character feel like an unstoppable force of nature? But of course, no spec is perfect, and each comes with its own quirks. So, grab a seat, grab your favorite snack, and let's get into it. Let's start with D4C. This spec is a real beast in PvP. Seriously, 40 seconds of iframes? That's not just powerful, that's borderline overpowered. If you've ever had that "oh no I'm dead" moment in PvP, you'll know how valuable that is. It can reflect damage back to attackers, making you feel like a true tank. But, and here's the thing, its damage isn't on par with the top tier specs. It's solid, don't get me wrong, but if you're looking for raw damage, this might not be your go-to. Still, the AoE is pretty nice, so you're not left in the dust in group fights. Now, Roland is a spec that hits hard across the board. I mean, who doesn't love a good barrage of punches, right? With moves that dish out crazy amounts of damage and a ton of AoE, Roland's definitely got the potential to wipe out whole groups of enemies. The only downside? It takes a while to execute all the moves, and that could leave you open to attacks. Still, if you can get the timing right, this spec is an absolute powerhouse for PvE. You're going to feel like a true warrior when you're blasting through enemies with this one. If you're all about mobility and insane damage, Okarun might just be your spec. The Z and X moves give you crazy damage output, especially the dash forward. It feels like you're just zooming through enemies. But there's a catch. While it's got some of the best PvE damage, it's a bit lacking in AoE. So, if you like taking out mobs quickly, this one might not be the best fit for crowd control. But in terms of straight-up damage, Okarun doesn't mess around. Aizen TYBW is another spec that's worth checking out, especially for those who love AoE. His moves hit hard, and I mean hard. Massive areas of damage? Yes, please. However, there's a bit of a catch here too. Aizen's buff only applies to his own moves, which means if you're looking for a spec that buffs other characters or provides some kind of support, this one might not be your best bet. Still, if you're in it for the sheer damage and don't mind the limitations, Aizen is an absolute powerhouse in PvE. Uraume is like that character who just casually walks into a fight and takes control. Seriously, the AoE on this one is insane. With a combo of ice blasts and frost attacks, Uraume can dominate any mob around. It's perfect for farming, and the damage is no joke. But here's the thing, it lacks utility. No extra buffs or fancy moves, just straight up damage. And in PvP, it can get overshadowed by specs with iframes. Still, for PvE, it's hard to argue with this cold-blooded killer. Then we have Rimuru, the spec that might not have the highest damage, but certainly brings some interesting utility to the table. The AoE is solid, and you get a nice damage buff on F that works with swords too. It's not the most powerful spec in the game, but it shines when it comes to PvE, especially if you like the idea of continuously spamming AoE attacks. The only issue here? It doesn't really shine in PvP, and its total damage output lags behind other top-end specs. But for grinding through mobs, Rimuru is definitely a fun pick. The thing with these specs is that they each have their unique strengths, but none of them are completely flawless. Take D4C for example, it's almost unbeatable in PvP with those iframes, but its damage doesn't quite stack up to some of the other contenders. Roland's an absolute beast in terms of raw damage, but the moves take a while to execute, leaving you exposed. And Okarun, with its insane mobility and crazy damage output, is great in PvE, but its AoE just doesn't compare to the likes of Uraume or Roland. It's all about finding the right balance for your playstyle. Do you like to play the tank, dodging and reflecting damage like with D4C? Or do you prefer the fast-paced, high-damage style of Okarun, charging through enemies like a whirlwind? Maybe you love the idea of sheer AoE power, like Uraume or Roland, wiping out mobs in seconds. Whatever you choose, each spec and verse piece offers something unique, and that's what keeps the game feeling fresh. So, which one's your favorite? Honestly, it all depends on what you're looking for. Whether it's raw power, speed, or utility, there's a spec for every kind of player. And trust me, once you find the one that clicks with your playstyle, you'll be unstoppable. Keep experimenting, and who knows, maybe you'll discover the perfect combo that takes your game to the next level. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.